Welcome to You Can Cook Anything. We're making coffee again today, and I thought you might be interested in this method of coffee brewing that is called a siphon pot or a vacuum pot. It uses the vacuum of a cooling column of water vapor and air to pull the coffee through a filter and separate it from the grounds so you can enjoy a nice clean cup of coffee. Let's get started. So I have a coffee pot. So this is obviously where the coffee will collect at the bottom when you're ready to drink it. So in this case, this coffee pot has a little bit of water in it because I'm trying to keep it warm because I'm going to put some very hot water into it, and you should not put hot water into a cold pot. The second important part of this system is the upper chamber. This is the chamber where the coffee will go, and it fits in the pot. And as you can see, there's a bit of a rubber seal there. When I push it in, the pot will seal. Once this thing is sealed, the only way for water, air, or anything to get between the top container and the coffee pot at the bottom is through that hole that you see right there and this glass tube. To get the kind of coffee you like, you're going to have to find out what your preferred brew ratio is. The ratio in weight of the coffee beans to the amount of water that you're using. Today I'm going to do it in ounces. Optimal brewing ratio is often talked about as being somewhere between 1 to 15 and 1 to 18. To make things easy, I'm going to use a 1 to 16 ratio. So if you have an amount of something and you divide it by 4 times, then you will figure out what 1/16 of that thing is. For example, in this case, I figure I'd like 3 8-ounce cups of coffee. So what I'm going to do is multiply 8 times 3 and get 24, and then divide 24 by 2 4 times. So half of 24 is 12, half of 12 is 6, half of 6 is 3, and half of 3 is 1 1/2. 5, 6, and that gets us over 1 1/2. Okay, so now I'm going to grind this coffee, and then we can continue with the brewing. All right, there's my water. So now I'm going to heat this up on the induction cooktop. I want the water boiling in the bottom container. Just when it gets to boiling, what I'm going to do is place this top chamber on top. Okay, the water's getting close to boiling. And so now what we need to do is prepare the top chamber. Right now, as you can see, the top chamber has a tube which leads to the coffee pot or the bottom chamber. And currently there isn't a way in there for it to filter coffee. So what we are going to do is we are going to drop the coffee filter into the top chamber. The coffee filter is made up of a mesh that is a cloth mesh stretched over a metal frame. As you can see, there are holes in the metal frame, and it's attached to a spring. The spring is attached to this straight piece, and that straight piece has a chain hanging from it. So I'm going to show you what this chain is for and what the hook is for at the bottom of that straight piece. So what we do is we drop the filter into the top chamber. You let it seat kind of in the middle there, that little divot that's at the bottom, and then you can see now the chain is hanging at the bottom. So one of the functions of this chain is that we grab it, stretch the spring out, and then hook that little hook at the bottom of the glass. You can see that it's now hooked and the spring is extended. Well, I'm going to place this here until we're ready to brew, but now it's prepared. And just as I'm saying that, it looks like the water is starting to come to a boil. Okay, now that the water is boiling, I'm going to place the top chamber on the pot. So there we go. Now what you'll notice very quickly is that water is going to start to enter the top part of this coffee pot. It's going to be hard to see with the steam, but this is filling up with water, as you can see. All right. And once it has filled up with water, the bottom chamber will continue to bubble. And that's when I add the grounds. Once the grounds are added, you're going to want to stir this and set a timer for 90 seconds. So you want to maintain this boiling. If I were on a gas range, I would be turning the gas range down right now so that I just maintained a simmer in the bottom chamber so that the pressure were maintained to hold the coffee in the top chamber. Right now it's brewing. When the 90 seconds are up, we're going to turn the heat off, and then you'll see how this vacuum pot gets its name. All right, the 90 seconds are up. So I'm going to turn off the heat here. I'm actually going to need to move this aside because I want to take the pot off the heat entirely for the next phase to occur. So watch carefully. As the bottom chamber cools, it will start contracting. Specifically, the water vapor and air in the bottom chamber are contracting as they cool. And that means the only way to relieve that pressure is to pull whatever it can, pull material through the filter into the bottom chamber. And that's what's happening right now. This pot is filtering the coffee into the coffee pot. All right, and this bubbling here that you see at the bottom, it's because all the water that was in the top chamber has now transferred back to the bottom chamber, and the only thing left for it to pull in is air. So now air is being pulled through the coffee grounds and into the bottom pot as this pot tries to equalize its pressure. We can help it along a little bit and make this go more quickly if we break up the coffee grounds. I don't know if you can hear that hissing. So the next step is to carefully remove the top chamber. Place the top chamber on its stand. And here we have a pot of coffee. One of the reasons that people use this method of brewing is that paper filters tend to remove the oils that are created when coffee is brewed. And some people prefer to have those oils show up in their cups of coffee. Cloth filters don't filter out as much of the oils, and therefore they're better for getting a cup of coffee that has coffee oils in them. Well, I hope you've enjoyed watching how this method of brewing works. Siphon pots or vacuum pots are one of the more fun ways that I like to brew at home because of the almost magical way that water first goes up into the top chamber and then is pulled back down into the bottom chamber. Of course, it's science and not magic, but it's a lot of fun to watch, and I hope you enjoyed it too. Thank you for watching. Give us a like and a subscribe. Remember what Bob and I always say, you can cook anything.